and welcome to another Ames League exhibition race. We're just finishing up practice here. We got about 5 minutes left at Fuji International Speedway, where we've got a full lobby today. Not just a few Ames racers, but also some, I don't say randos, because I think that's a little rude. What should we call them, Ryan?
Guests of our series. That's what I think we're going to call them.
Guest, I think, is a great way to put it. We're here again. We have two Group 3 races today. First off, we're starting off here at Fuji, which will be the full circuit, and then followed by Nürburgring Grand Prix. Should be pretty exciting. We have 40-minute races for both. And today, due to the mixed lobby, we are requiring everyone to be on the medium racing tires at least once. So we'll see what strategies play out, but hopefully it doesn't affect anyone's strategy too much. I figure it's a good beating ground for everyone to be at.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a good thing, especially with this track. Fuji, you know, I was testing it out earlier, and my softs didn't last too long when I was just pushing. And so it'll be interesting to see, you know, if people can mix in some fuel savings, tire degradation savings, and really take advantage of those softs, or are we just going to see those really come to play for qualifying and see mediums hards during the race?
Yeah, I think qualifying should be pretty good here. I know at least a few of our drivers are we've had some good racing so far this pre-season, and I'm even more excited since we start our full season next Sunday on the 2nd. Our first actual race for the manufacturer Group 3 series will be at Barcelona, which is very exciting.
Barcelona, it's a great track. It's one of my favorite tracks, really, and I think it really will let our drivers stretch their legs as a really fun first race of the season.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. So I'm just looking at Mooseman right now. Wonderful livery, I gotta say. I love the green. I love the color scheme. Again, we got those yellow headlights. Ghost Moose has been pretty fast for these past few races and practice sessions we've done. So it's safe to say that we're probably expecting a lot out of him. You think so?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, he's got the Ghost energy, right? So that's just going to fuel him through the race personally, but it's going to help fuel his car too. You know, he had a lot of pace last Wednesday. Actually, this past Wednesday, we just did an MX Cup race, and that was a blast. We had a three-way race between Tony Cal, who's not here today, Mooseman, and I believe it was Specs, right?
Yeah. Specs was and Specs had a great time. What was that on Wednesday? It
was a great time, yeah.
Had some fantastic races. You know, made a few mistakes here and there, but made less mistakes than his other fellow racers. And I think that's the important part, is to if you're just slightly better than the rest of the guys, you're gonna win. So that's some wisdom for you right there.
Capitalize where you can, right?
Absolutely. So we have about 2 minutes left on this practice session, and then we'll jump right into quality. Interesting to see. All right, team goes in the pits. So it looks like we are getting some good tire wear, and we're getting some, the fuel will be playing a factor for sure here as well. So, like I said, starting on those mediums might be the play for people if they just want to get them out of the way. Because we got some contact over here. Hey, easy guys, it's just practice. But
I did set a timer for 2 minutes here, so we'll get this practice wrapped up shortly and get qualifying on the way. Qualifying is going to be a lot of fun, I think. It's a really fun track, difficult track here, especially the last uphill section. I can never seem to get that line right.
Yeah, that uphill section is pretty difficult. I'm just going to tell you guys real quick that we got 1 minute until quali.
I already told them the 2 minute warning.
Oh man, you beat me to it. Good, so I don't have to worry about showing that on stream again. we are doing things a bit differently here today, because we are missing a racer / host, but that's all right. We make things work. We get things done.
That's right. You know, this preseason testing, it's not just been for the drivers to figure out what cars they want to use for the series, but it's for us to get the stream up and running. So speaking of which, if you do feel like, if you're watching and there's some changes you suggest, volumes, whatever it might be, definitely let us know. We're all ears, trying to make this as interesting, that's a word, as interesting as possible, as fun as possible, and we're gonna keep it going. So we got another 45 seconds left on practice here, That 139, that's a really good lap time, I think, from Mooseman. I know earlier my fastest was about 6 seconds off the pace there. I had a 145. So I'm liking to see that.
Well, once again, why we're in the commentary, quote unquote, box, right?
That's right.
Real quick though, speaking of speed, we got Crispy over here, and as we know, each sticker adds 5 horsepower to your car, and just a good livery will add you like 30 horsepower. So, it's Crispy coming out with the hot fire, as the kids say. I think they're saying that, right?
Looking car, that's for sure.
That's looking good. Who else do we have here? All right. Well, that's no livery. It's all right. It looks good. You know, it's clean. I think isn't it the base, pretty much?
Yeah, it looks about right.
That's all right. It's a good looking car.
That also looks like we've hit our time for practice.
All righty. So here we go. Starting. Let's see. I got exit here real quick, and then we go to quality. Start quality. Can you tell that I don't really run the lobbies often?
That's okay.
So we got 14 racers now. Looks like we had 15 or 16 earlier, but that's all right. I'm interested to see. I hope that the guests will have some clean racing. You know. Yep. I know driver DR and SR isn't everything, but we're also seeing some interesting letters here, ratings. So I'm a little bit skeptical, but you know, listen, maybe these are some Smurf accounts. I don't know. Do people Smurf in GT7? I'm sure they do.
I mean, you know, if you see Alexander Albin, but Super GT on YouTube, he definitely Smurfs. He's got a couple of accounts there, so we'll see. Hopefully everyone keeps it clean, keeps it respectful. Leave it to space wherever you can. Leave it to space. That's the most important part. So as we start quality off, it's gonna be a full pack today. I'm looking forward to it. I hope that we have races like this size going into our serious start next week. If you happen to be watching, or maybe happen to see this on YouTube later on, someone says, wow, they had some great commentary, some great racing, and it's a brand new league. Those guys are just fantastic. You can always reach out to us on Twitch or YouTube, and I believe we'll have our Discord information available. You can jump in, look to sign up. We will be having all that information down below in Twitch within the next week as well. So let's see how Moose gets on here on his outlap. I'm excited to see if we get anyone spinning out on their outlap here or what. Curious. Well, I'll tell you, there's a lot of traffic in the back there. A lot of traffic in the midfield especially too. So it's, you know, if people create some distance between them and their opponents, hopefully we'll see some good times. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, especially with the you know, around a minute 40 lap times here. 10 minutes is a good amount to be able to get a few laps in, but if you're spinning over the place, if you end up trying to battle during quali, which I'm no race expert, but I wouldn't recommend, hopefully, you know, these guys just, like you said, make some room and they can have some good quali. But let's go along with Mooseman on his first lap. Has a great turn in on the apex right there. That I think that turn is very difficult, but it's also really satisfying when you get it right. It's honestly the first 3 or 2/3 of the track I love. That first turn is really important. You don't go too wide because the green on the left side on the exit is pretty slippery. You come through here, you can carry a lot of speed into this sort of, this is almost like a 3-part turn, I believe, on the right-hander. Coming here, this is a tough line also to get here, but cutting that apex nicely, it's a really good line. I've found it's often faster. Maximize the road on your exits, and then you could just come through, cut the apex a little bit there, carry tons of speed. And here we're coming up on something that will ruin people's race. I've found actually that breaking at the sign, the shadow of the sign on the road, really helps you out as a marker into the slowest part of the course right here. Got that difficult, twisty, windy bit followed by the uphill section we were talking about earlier. Again, if you get a toe out of line, you will not be treated to a good lap time here. It's super prevalent in this last sector of the track, because if you get a poor exit, that whole straight, you're going 5-10 miles an hour lower than the person next to you, and that's where track times are going to be eaten up. So Mooseman closing up his first lap here, coming down the main straight. It's looking good. We saw he had a 139 in practice. See if he can match or beat that. 139. Oh, 139 dead. Fantastic job here. Now we're going to have a bunch coming in.
143, 143 followed by, and wow, alrighty. So we have a tight bunch so far. We're still holding another 140 dead almost. Wow. Okay. We're fixing for a good race here. A little bit slower there, but listen, that was a fantastic lap by the Moose Man himself.
It was a great opening lap, and again, the track times are just going to come down with the fuel being depleted and the track rubbering up a bit more. It's really good to see actually as a first lap on quali.
I will say though, this track is eating up these tires. I mean, we're 2.5 laps in with Moose here, and you know, granted he's going hard, but these softs are not going to last whatsoever.
No, that's what I said when I was running practice earlier. It just I don't think you'll see much of the softs at all. Maybe a hard to soft pit, but that's a lot to do. It's a 40-minute race.
I mean, it's a 40-minute race. It'll be interesting to see how the hards last and the mediums that we are requiring on these drivers as well. You know, but we're seeing how these softs are just tearing already. It's gonna be a tough one. It's also a lot of, you know, I guess it's a relatively long lap. I think it's a relatively long track, so they're gonna be burning the fuel, and I wonder how much fuel saving they're really gonna be able to be doing. Obviously, you don't want to be using that much on this long straight where you're making up you know, a lot of time, but you know, during the slower portion of the track, up the uphill section, maybe you can get away with a bit of lifting and coasting here and there, or short shifting here and there, you know, to get out of the corners and you know, save some of that fuel.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the lift and coast, especially at the end there, you know, it's just going to help you tuck into the turn, depending on your car, of course, right?
Yep.
But it'll help you rotate your car more efficiently, and again, help you out on fuel savings. Especially, you know, you're pushing your car to go uphill. It's going to use more energy.
Absolutely. And we see Gilly over here going on 138.9, so just a hair faster than Moose's 139 dead. So
looking good in that AMG too. That is a fantastic livery.
I love the livery. It looks a bit like a you know, comic book came out of or something like that. But great job by Gilly. If it's gonna be these two on the front row, it's gonna be a mad dash to the first turn.
Oh, forget about it. They are hungry racers.
Hungry racers. That's be a new board game.
We've got about 4 minutes left in quali. Again, those truck times are going to continue to come down. I saw some racing going on in the back a few laps ago. I have to remind people that this is quali. This is not a race just yet. But excited to see those elbows going out. So far, I haven't seen any elbows too far out, which is good. I've seen a couple of people spinning off in the back there, but everyone seems to be getting on pretty well.
Good. You know, I'm interested to see this race we're seeing right now. These are a couple of guests here, Solus and the person in the Lamborghini.
VJ?
Yeah. Let's go with that.
Let's call him VJ.
Solus looks like he's pushing pretty hard. They're pushing pretty hard. And no, VJ just didn't look like they had the pace earlier. They were on one of the slower qualities. So it'll be interesting to see if, I mean, look at that gap. Solus is coming in on there. I hope that these drivers are understanding and are, you know, comfortable with letting people pass and know when to let people pass, you know, if they get blue flags, etc. Maybe that's something that you can remind them just real quick in text. Just say, hey, you know, please respect flags, or, you know, faster cars behind you, etc.
Absolutely.
Crispy coming in with 141.2. That's a pretty good lap from Crispy in that Lexus he's been getting used to there. I know that he was saying, you know, it's not the best on power, but as far as fuel wear and tires, sorry for that quick swap, he's been enjoying it. So I'm interested to see how he does this race. I think I said it last on Wednesday when we got together for the MX5 races and practice, but if he's more consistent in this car than he was his previous ones, then that should equal better results overall. And, you know, even just because you're not in the fastest car on track doesn't mean that you can't pump out results just through consistency.
That's exactly right. He's been impressing us, honestly, this entire way through these exhibition races. Crispy getting a little slippery there, but he's been killing it, really. And again, the livery, chef's kiss.
Killing the livery game, absolutely. So who else do we have left here? So it's interesting to see people pitting and throwing on the mediums. Does Asian Vroom Vroom think this is the race yet? You have to swap to the mediums in the race. It can't just be in quality, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, and that's an odd choice. Maybe they didn't get to practice with them on, and they left the room, unfortunately.
Right. Well, They come and they go. It's all right.
That's right. That's right. You know, it's an important thing to use. The 10 minutes is not a long practice session, and you really feeling the different tires. I genuinely feel like, for me personally, I never know quite how the mediums will react and behave compared to the. I know what to expect from the softs every time. I know what to expect from the hards every time, but depending on temperature in the tires or the tracks, I do feel like mediums are a little bit of a guessing game occasionally.
Yeah, you know, like you said, it's, I mean, they're supposed to be right in the middle, right? But maybe it's something psychological about knowing you're on the soft tires. You just feel it's that much more secure, but you have so much more grip, etc. And then when you swap to the hards, you know, having just going from one extreme to the other, basically, it can feel like a pretty jarring experience. But
oh, absolutely.
I will say a little while ago, Gilly improved on his fastest lap of 138.916. So I'm gonna swap to him real quick. I say real quick, but you know, it takes a bunch of button presses here. He did a 139.4 earlier, so he's crushing it right now. He's gonna be a driver to look out for, especially you know, putting these qualifying laps up right now. But
oh, I just saw VJ come out of the pits and instantly get a penalty. He's got a 6-second penalty that's not going to help him on his out lap, no less.
Oof. You know, this is a short pit exit, and the auto drive stops and it puts you straight. It looks to put you straight across the pit exit line. So
yeah, they can't be bothered to straighten your car out.
No, if you're caught sleeping exiting the pit lane here, it will hurt you. But I think that's going to be it for qualifying, as our last racers maybe come through here and finish up. Trying to see who else we got racing. But it looks like no one's been able to touch that 138.9. We're getting close. Demon is a driver who I'm excited to see. They
yeah, they did really well Wednesday. Oh, close. There was some contact there.
There was a little bit of contact. Looked like Specs was coming up right on behind Mr. Labu, so.
We have VJ coming around.
That 3-second penalty.
Track. Yeah, another penalty. Yeah, no, that's really going to be tough to do anything but last place if you keep racking up those penalties.
You know what? Like I said earlier, though, I think they're one of the drivers with a lower rating. As long as they're you know, might be some good practice for them to get into the things, or you know, but like I said, as long as they're respectful to the other drivers and everything else, hopefully they can have a good race, and maybe they'll learn something from following a faster driver as well. You never know with where these guys are coming from.
Yeah, exactly right. And so it looks like, I believe everyone is done except Crispy Nubbins, who's sitting in the pit lane right now. It's been the last couple of minutes they've been in there, so the clock's just going to time out, I believe.
Yeah, there's I think it was a 180-second timer.
That's right.
And then for the end of quality. So, you know, like I said, we just gotta wait for the last lap here, I believe. Yeah, or the timer to go. I think that's exactly what just happened here. So this should be swapping out here in just a moment. There's the checkered flag by our computer-generated person.
Less computer-generated than the guy from Apple that we did at COTA last year. You know, I'm just looking down while we're waiting for this session to move on. I'm looking at some of the track times, and the lap times from the players, and some of them are looking very, very consistent.
Yeah, that's good. I guess, you know, consistency. So that's fantastic. Alrighty.
Let's take a quick look at results.
Well, we got Gillian in first, followed by Moose in second, Demon in third. And like I said earlier, Demon's a driver that I'm interested to see how they do. Bathroom break. Hey, oh, hey. Crispy Melvin's
that's why they had left.
Okay. I'm going to just ask everyone, make sure everyone ready. I'm sure they are, but you know, I just want to make sure.
Absolutely. So really a 3-second gap, not even, between first and last. Crispy Nubbins in 8th place. Maybe could have made up more time. Oh, no, they still need their breath and break. Maybe could have made up more time, but looks like they had to get up away from the PS5. So they've got a race ahead of them.
All right, we'll give Crispy here just a moment then to finish up, I suppose.
Yeah, I'll just let them know that we're waiting for him.
Not to get a little too obscure here, but I think this is why they're gamer buckets. And, you know, Crispy just got to learn to have one on hand.
That's right. I made sure I took care of myself before I started the stream. So that's just poor time management. Poor body management, if you will.
Poor
but that's okay.
I think he is recovering. All right, ready. All right. We are going 3, 2, 1.
ready to lose.
Funny. So yeah, I mean, this hopefully we're gonna have a good clean race, and hopefully it's gonna be pretty tight going into the first few turns. Obviously, I'm sure everything's going to spread out eventually. All right, so we got our settings here. We are good to go. Then we are going to be doing a rolling start. At least that's setting I chose. Here we go as we go around.
Yeah, rolling start for today, the exhibition. You know, when we have people that maybe we don't know, it's a little bit safer instead of mass carnage possibly at the grid start. But during the season, I do believe that we voted on it and drivers chose to do grid start. So we'd be having a safety car and everything starting that off. But here we go. Mr. Giller coming through, keeping that first place looking very tidy. Followed by Moose and Demon. There's already a gap between Demon and Specs in 4th place. Surprising to see. Specs was doing very well Wednesday, but we'll see. It's a long race.
Maybe that setting didn't save for the. We unfortunately had to change the settings pretty last minute. I thought I saved everything correctly, and maybe that part, the rolling start, didn't save. So he may have been waiting for a something else, unfortunately. But it looks like it was a grid start regardless, and that's why we have these practice sessions. But listen,
everyone's making their way downtown. It looks like it's looking clean so far. I haven't seen any incidents on my end. We do have some traffic forming up. Everyone's kind of getting in line as we get through our first lap.
Oh, it looks like Mooseman is right on the behind of Gilly over here, but Gilly is still maintaining to stay just ahead. I think that AMG is pretty quick on the straights too. I can't remember if the GTR, if that's strength or not. I remember it being pretty quick in sports, but I can't remember.
For me, I do really enjoy that way that AMG drives, and the GTR is a very good all-rounder car. But look at this, going side by side down the main straight, and Demon is right behind there to possibly scoop up any pieces that are remained. You know, when the guys are battling in front, you can certainly make up a place or two if you get so lucky.
Absolutely. VJ has left, unfortunately. We're down to just 8 racers here as we go into turn 1. Following Specs not far behind. Must have had a fantastic run.
That range, and he's getting a bit of a tow. It looks like he'll be able to keep up. Hopefully it pays out for him. You know, like to see a 4-way contention for podium. That'd be great.
Absolutely. But Gilly gets passed by Moose, who has just had a great run, it seems. Fighting with Demon now for second.
Wow, yeah, Moose really just pulling away now. He's got some fresh air, not having a fight. He saw an opening, he took it. Specs right up behind them again now. It looks like they just swapped places.
Yeah, Specs is the one benefiting most from this fighting. But, I mean, you know who else? I mean, Crispy Nubbins, he's a little ways behind. But if this continues as a 3-way fight, it's going to slow them all down. And that means Mooseman's going to keep walking away. And that means that people in back hope we can come back into this race and, you know, be a bit more competitive. But we've just started. It's a long 40-minute race. We know that these tires aren't going to last forever. We know people are going to have to fuel up.
That's right. Yeah, we see Specs there getting a little squirrely on the exit, taking too much curve, it looked like. But really, we have the first four, followed by Crispy Nubbins in fifth, and then 6 through 8 are kind of in their own right now.
You know, that we see that from time to time, though, right? Especially as we have, you know, as we're trying to create this league and then bringing it back up. It's we want everybody to get better. We want everyone to be able to learn to drive better and just perform better to make for closer races. Obviously, with these manufacturer races, all these cars are a bit different. Everything has different strengths, but you know, we don't know exactly maybe where. It looks like we have Solus and Philo. You know, those are the two guests currently. We don't know what their racing history is like. I guess you said something about making their way downtown.
Oh, absolutely.
Someone
making their way downtown, racing fast, fastest paced, faces past. It's got to be fastest paced. Tim Cozy.
There's a good try there on your end, but it looks like here Demon holding second. We're getting. I'm sure things are about to tighten up as we get to the uphill section of the track here, but Demon's holding on to second place right now. Moose just flying, put it in a 1:39.3, and we have just begun this race here. So I do wonder. I'm going to swap over to Moose real quick, see what tires they are on, and okay, I had a feeling Moose was sitting on the softs.
Yeah, so that definitely will help him get ahead now. And again, he's going to be pushing. He's almost a quarter tank down already. You know, we're only 3 laps into this race, for not even 5 minutes. So he's pushing, but he's, you know, if he can make that gap happen, we've seen it work at F1, it'll work here.
Oh, absolutely. And it's important to note, Demon is also on the so Gilly's on mediums. Can you see what Specs is racing on? What he started with?
Specs is on the soft as well.
Okay, so interesting. So Gilly of the top 4 is the only person on the mediums, and I'm sure that his thought process now is, well, if I can outlast these guys on the tires at the very least, then maybe, you know, he'll be able to scoop up a place and track position.
Oh, we just had some contact there. Mr. Lavu hitting, I'm sorry, not Mr. Lavu, but one of our guests, Solus, hitting Crispy Nubbins. We don't like to see that. Leave the space there. Leave the space.
Oh no! How bad was it?
He survived. That's okay. They're still going. Still going.
Crispy, unfortunately, has a history of others ruining races for him, and
that's exactly right.
I keep on saying that, you know, he's gonna get his bad luck out before the series starts, but this might be the last exhibition of the preseason here. So he's
got to get it all out now.
Exactly. That's exactly right. As we see here, we are on lap 4 of a race at Fuji International Speedway. Things kind of just, other than in the back, it sounds like things are getting a bit spicy right now, but so far the grid is just opening up a bit. Our drivers are, you know, settling in, and like I said, I'm excited to see how these tires last, as it looks like Specs goes a little squirrely there out of that turn, but he recovers and he keeps going.
Yeah, Crispy in the back there. You know, we basically have 2 races right now. P1 through 4, they're all spreading out. P5 through 8, they are close-knit. It's looking good, but Crispy was leading the pack there, and he had a little mistake and got squirrely on the exit. He was just hitting the gas too hard, and unfortunately now he's down in P8, but we'll see. We'll see Crispy most likely come back and fight his way up.
Absolutely. I gotta say, I still love how this BRZ looks from Specs, man. It's I'm never a big fan of painting the wheels something crazy like that, but it just works with his livery.
It absolutely does. It's a good looking thing.
I will say once again though, and this is something that we've noticed as a trend with Specs in these pre-season races. Look at that tire wear, man. I know.
He's pushing hard.
He is pushing hard.
The softs. You know, it's the softs. He's got 5 laps. This is not an easy track.
Those are the softs.
It's not an easy track at all.
For sure, but you know, let's take a look at Demon real quick. Who, I mean, similar wear for sure, I suppose, but it just, I mean, man, maybe I'm just getting spoiled looking at Gilly on his mediums, and the mediums look like that you're genuinely lasting quite a bit longer. As we swap back to Gilly.
You say that, but if you take a look at the guys in 5 through 8, most of them are on softs, and they are either they're not pushing as hard, they're not, you know, terrorizing their tires as much as the other guys. We obviously see some people with some damage, you know, they've hit a wall or maybe some contact in racing, and It's okay though. It's interesting to see the tire degradation differences for sure.
Yeah, it could also be the cars, and it could be just be a setup difference as well. You know, because we do a bit of tuning and whatnot. So.
Oh yeah, that makes a big difference.
I gotta say, I do enjoy that the pumpkin livery with Mr. Labu. I don't know what it's about, but I'm here for it.
Yeah, I do like that a lot. He's got our Ames number badge on the side as well. Looking good, Mr. Labu.
So
Mr. Labu having a run on its Solus there. Again, this just Main Street is just so long, and they are looking close there. This is here we go. He's pulling out. He's got the top speed, and there he goes. It's Solus. Gives the position to Mr. Labu, or Mr. Labu earns it, I should say. He concedes defeat and says, I'll get behind you, I'll take it back. You know, that Ford GT that it's Solus is running, I like it. I drove it after last week's race, seeing Tony Cal, and I have to say, it does feel pretty good to drive.
Does it feel pretty stable? The drive doesn't feel terribly.
I think it takes for me, it takes a little bit more effort, but again, I'm so used to driving the Porsche that that thing just feels so planted and stable to me. But I feel like there's more, possibly more pace in the right hands of the GT.
Real quick, I did not. Oh, as Gilly spins out. You know what this means?
Don't like to see that.
You know what this means? Specs is going to come and take that position right from him. I definitely did not mean to swap cameras there. I have a keyboard that I accidentally typed on next to the PlayStation, and I wonder if I could just quickly swap between drivers. But I'm glad I swapped to get to see that. That is unfortunate for Gilly, but you know, again, if he can outlast the pit, maybe he can make it up a little bit. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah, okay, wonderful. So today I learned if you have a keyboard connected to the PlayStation, you can just hit 1 through whatever, like 1 through 8, 1 through 9, to swap between those positions.
That is fantastic to know.
Listen, we're not just
stream better already.
We're not just a we're not just here for your entertainment. We're also here for your education.
That's exactly right. So the first pit of the race, as far as I can see, it looks like Specs is coming in. Specs, I will let you know what they changed to. I'm sure they're going to the mediums next.
Philo also looks like they pit. So
that's right. Yet they're following in Specs.
So that will give Crispy some time to make up a few places, at least on the track. So Specs goes on the mediums. It looks like, as required.
That is right. Specs is on the mediums. That's our required compound type for the race.
As required. So we are just 1/4 of the way through the race, and we're getting pit stops already.
And Balo also goes on the mediums, looking to get that out of the way, it looks like, and also have some more, you know, distance that you could drive. But those softs, you know, they're running. We just had our first pit around 10 minutes, 10 minute 30. You know, we got 4 times that length to go.
Absolutely. This it's going to be, you know, the tire wear looks like it's pretty substantial, pretty significant on this track. I mean, we haven't seen anyone go on the hards yet, and I don't think from this point you would be able to make it. You'd be a madman if you could make the rest of the race on hards from here. But, you know, I wonder, for those who started on the mediums, can they get, you know, 10 more minutes out and maybe do the rest of the race on hards? Because I feel like if you start in the softs, you're gonna end up, if you go soft to mediums, you're probably gonna have to do another stop.
Absolutely. You also have to take fuel into account, right? You know, you're looking at Demon right now, who hasn't pitted, and they're less than half their fuel tank left.
That's true as well.
And their tires looking worse for wear. So if I were them, I mean, listen, I don't think pitting for hards now is the choice. I think you go on the mediums and see how you can make it out, but you can do some fuel savings. You could also, we lost Balo, it looks like, you know, you could also go hards and do fuel savings and try to make it to the end. I don't think you're going to be able to. I think we might see, this might be a 2 pit race or pit stop race.
Yeah, it might be 2 or 3 for some people, I think, for sure. This is pretty wild.
It depends on the driving style.
Absolutely depends on the driving style, the choices they make in those pit stops, you know. Hopefully no one forgets to fuel up. I think it was Salem last week, on Wednesday. Ran out of fuel at the, I think we were at Red Bull Ring, maybe? I can't remember.
Yes, we were at Red Bull Ring in our Group 3 exhibition on Wednesday. And it is against our rules in the series to limp, you know, Gran Turismo does have a limp mode that it'll limit you to 50 miles an hour. And you can make it back to the pits. That is considered a DNF in our series.
Yeah, so in the preseason, it's all right to get away with that, and but it's during the actual season that could spell disaster if you're doing well in the championship fight, and who knows that if you're giving a DNF, then that could just ruin your championship for you, depending on where you are and the point of the season that we're in.
Oh, absolutely. Forget about it. It would be devastating to lose a race purely because you didn't watch your fuel management,
I agree. I do wonder, we're on board right now with Moose, who is 10 seconds clear of second place right now. Having a fantastic race, it seems. We haven't had our eyes on him the entire time, but to be this far up, in 9 laps means he hasn't made a mistake, really. And I just wonder, what do you think he's gonna do? Because at this point, he has track position, which is great, but those tires are crying, and again, you will need fuel. So do you go to, so he's gonna have to go to something harder. Like we said, we are requiring all racers to use the mediums today. So does he go mediums and try to make those last the entire rest of the race, or does he do soft medium maybe to try and use up some more fuel and keep pushing? It's if the less stops you can make, the faster your overall time will be, of course, right? If you have more stops, you're just gonna be slower and you're giving up places at that point.
More often than not, yeah. I had to say, it's Solas just pitted. He went from softs they went from softs to mediums, and they did cross the grid lane penalty. It looks like, so they got a 3-second penalty. Certainly not helping them on their outlap. That's unfortunate.
Well, I hope they stick around, because we have unfortunately lost the rest of the guests here. Bios pitted and then they left. It's but I guess that's what we get for these exhibition races when you open it up to everybody.
That's right, yeah. I am shocked to see Mooseman rather hasn't pitted. He's still gaining time. Demon, of course, is in the pits now.
Wow.
So we'll see what they get to. But their tires, I believe, were worse for the Mooseman.
Listen, so now we got Gilly again behind Moose, but 16, almost 17 seconds behind. So I don't know what the pit time loss is here on this track. I know Gran Turismo pits are very relatively long, but I mean,
well, I'll tell you, at least the pit timer itself, not counting the entry and exit, took about 10 seconds or so for the tire change, and Demon filled up. It was about 20 seconds. So, you're looking at least a 30-second pit window, realistically, entry, services, and exit.
Okay. So realistically, a 17-second lead, Moose could pit right now, and he wouldn't be losing a whole lot of time.
No, not at all. Of course, we're seeing him take these softs through lap 10, and he's got a quarter tank of fuel left. So if his plan was to go soft, he will still need to refuel, because he was burned 3/4 of a tank now. Granted, I'm sure he is going all out, but
Moose is gonna pit.
Moose is pitting. Moose is coming in.
Alrighty, let's talk about down to Gilly. Now, Gilly, on those mediums, they still have considerable. I mean, if you're gonna end up taking the tires down like Moose did, they have considerable life still left on them. He will need to pit for fuel. So I wonder if he's going to try and make this a 2-stop or a 1-stop rather, and just go straight to the hards and fuel up and say, all right, this is what we're gonna do. Moose, could also be trying to do the other thing, but same thing, but maybe start on hard, starts on softs, fuels up and goes to hards. It'll be interesting to see what choice he ends up making and where he comes out. Mediums, 100. More power to him.
Mediums will last the race. I think that's what Mooseman is looking at. We've got 23 minutes left in this race. It's a 40-minute race. He made the softs last through over a third of it. He made a tank of gas last over a third of it, and he's probably saying, okay, what can I do to have as much pace as possible and just make it to the end of the race? Now, on those mediums, on that note, we still have Crispy Nubbins, who has yet to pit, and believe it or not, Mr. Labu, who's in second right now, on softs, if I'm reading that correctly.
We'll swap back to check on. I just wanted to see if Gilly was going to pit here. But yeah, he's still on the sub. Mr. Labu is still on the softs on that McLaren, and seems to be doing all right. I mean, that back left is crying for sure. But they seem to be doing all right. The fuel is quite low as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to be pitting here in just a moment, and that will give Moose second place again. It'll be interesting to see if Gilly ends up maybe doing an opposite strategy compared to Moose, where Gilly is doing, he started on the mediums and maybe he'll swap the softs, and Moose started on softs and he swapped to mediums if they're trying to make a one-stop work here. Again, though, I am curious about the hards. I know that they're slower overall. As we see Mr. Labu pitting, we'll have to keep track of what he's gonna be swapping to, and we see Mooseman just behind him passing on the main straight.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think the Mooseman made the right choice in going on the mediums. He already had the pace, he had the distance, and with Giller and Mr. Labu, who's now pitting, Giller still needs to pit. He knows he's going to take first place back, and he's going to want the pace he can get out of those mediums to create even more distance. For other people, I mean, the hards might be a viable option because you can just push, but you still have to take your fuel into account.
That's true. As we see here,
you can make it a one-stopper, but you're not going to do that if you burn through all your fuel.
Right. Oh man, I see Specs drifting in the background of turn one, and he is stuck in the middle of the road.
Oh, Specs.
Unfortunate. We were just seeing Demon have a great move on Crispy going into turn one, and Demon pitted. He has brand new mediums on him, where Crispy, like he says, mediums that have not, they're well used at this point.
Absolutely.
Specs, unfortunately, I don't think they've pit yet, so they're on mediums.
No, they're on mediums. I must have missed their pit.
Yeah, that's right. They did pit. One of the people that dropped followed them in, and he must be pushing very hard because he's going off a little bit here and there. Mr. Labu hit pitted. He's got brand new mediums on, so if these can make the race, we are halfway done with the race, and he's full on fuel. So I'm sure Mr. Labu is going to be trying to take these to the end. So that leaves Solus on the mediums. They're a few laps old and 3/4 of the tank. We have Specs in 6, a little bit more used mediums and only half the tank. Specs may have to pit again before this race is over.
Yeah, it's very possible. It looks like he's not being too kind to those mediums, and maybe that was his plan. Get the pace out of the mediums, but go in the required compound. Notice he's only at half full fuel, so maybe he didn't fill up all the way in an effort to get more pace out of the car, go on the required change, and then maybe fuel up towards the end and go on softs. Again, this variable strategy, it's all a guessing game currently, seeing how it'll play out. But for the person I think it's going to play out best for right now, between their driving and their strategy, is the Mooseman.
Moose, you may be right here.
But I really am curious to see Giller and see what they're going to be able to do. They have yet to pit. Their tires are still looking healthy enough. Their tires may outlive their fuel at this rate. It's amazing to see.
Crispy is another one who he does not like to pit. Crispy likes to wait until the very last second to pit, it seems. And I can understand that, if you have more track time and you're ideally pushing faster laps than everybody else. But we take a look at their times, and unfortunately we have, they're stuck in the 140s, and we have other people around them. Demon is he had a couple of slow laps as well, one including the pit, but he's a bit faster in the 140s. And then you have people like Moose consistently 139s or he had a 140.2 the last lap. And Mr. Gilla over here slowing down a bit now, I'm sure, between some fuel saving and his tires. I think you're right. Those tires are going to outlast the fuel at this point.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to pit this at the end of this lap. And honestly, if I were Crispy Nubbins, I would have pitted right after Demon overtook him on the exit of turn one. There, I see as we're talking with those dead tires and lack of fuel, Giller puts in the best first sector.
Unbelievable.
Awesome to see on those dead tires.
Some fantastic driving. Mooseman, though, still holding fastest lap, and that was an early fastest lap. That
was a very early lap.
I don't know why he couldn't put that in during qualifying.
That's amazing, isn't it? Crispy following the Giller move, staying out. He's not as crucially low on fuel, but his front left tire especially is crying. Please let me go rest.
Well, we are getting to this uphill section following Gilly on stream. Maybe he'll decide to pit this lap. Maybe it'll be another lap. Who knows? I would be curious to see what kind of fuel saving mode that he's in, if any, or if he's just trying to do, if he's doing it all by himself, if he's, you know, short shift. He is short shifting quite a bit, as we just saw.
That's right. Yep, another short shift there. So, you know, trying to save fuel, maybe rotate the car a little bit, you know.
Yeah, and he did not even, okay, and here we go, Gilly into the pits here.
Yeah, he has to. I mean, we can't see it, but of course the game does tell you have 1 point, X amount of laps left, whatever it might be. But again, if you push harder than the game, you know, calculated you at, you may very well run out.
Absolutely, and this allows Mooseman to take first place once again. We'll see how far out Gilly is. Gilly, very low on fuel, single digits, down to 3. I am curious to see what tire he's going to jump on, though, because those medium, he can stay on the mediums for all he wants, and those mediums lasted quite well and seemed like they were doing pretty well performance-wise. And at this point, he will be on the freshest set of medium tires on this track. I don't think we have, other than Crispy, everyone else is pitted, and I think the rest of the track is on
Crispy's
mediums.
Coming in right now, actually.
And Gilly's on the softs, 100% fuel. We have 15 minutes left in this race. That man is going to want to take those softs the whole way and get some pace.
Giller is hungry for that P1, and it may very well come to him.
Unbelievable.
He does have a almost 22 second gap in front, but those tires are going to wear. He's not going to have the pace that Giller's going to have with those softs. We shall see, but the first thing that Giller's got to do is overtake Demon, and he's only 1 second behind now coming out of this turn. Again, a very difficult turn to get right. You have to really balance the throttle and let the car rotate when it needs to. Otherwise, you're just going to be braking and ruining your momentum.
Absolutely. And you know, the faster that Gilly can get past Demon is the better off he's going to be as far as fuel, tire, and just clean air. You know, he doesn't have to worry about finding anybody the faster he can get by him. Crispy just pitted. I didn't get to see. Can you check what tires Crispy ended up swapping to? If he's on softs, he must be in Gilly's head, because they're basically on the same strategy at this point.
Not only is Crispy on softs, but he's at 3/4 of a tank of fuel.
Woo, boy, that man. I said it last week, and I'm gonna say it again. Crispy is the kind of guy who's like, all right, my fuel lights on in my truck. I don't know how much fuel I got, but I know my car. My car is gonna make it to work and back, and I'm gonna stop at the grocery store on the way home. This man says, screw the fuel. I want to get back on track. Use my soft tires. If this man makes it for the next 15 minutes, I will be amazed.
I will be shocked if he does. You know, I gotta say, when they name Crispy Nubbins, I don't know how lean of a person they are, but I imagine he runs his car leaner than he is, because goddamn.
That may very well be true. I can't attest, but I will say, Demon holding off Gilly for now. He's just under a second ahead at the moment. But Gilly, you know, maybe he's playing the patient game. Maybe he's just gonna wait and you know, maybe he's just saying to himself, Mooseman's 22 seconds ahead. I don't really want to waste my resources fighting. As we see, you know, maybe he's just gonna wait it out, see what happens. Maybe he'll wait for Mooseman to make a mistake. Though Moose so far has been pretty competent, and I you know, not that they've been on the screen the entire time, but we haven't seen many mistakes, and we today nor for the previous races. As Demon puts a few tires into the grass, that's going to give Gilly the momentum to catch him in these twisties. But it looks like Gilly backs off just a little bit. No, Gilly is going up. Ooh, this is a good fight. Gilly goes around the outside, round the outside, round the outside of Demon. He's still on the outside, trying to maintain that speed and get a position. He is hungry, but he concedes and he falls right back behind.
Position Giller is going to be in. He's going to have that toe. He's going to have a toe down this massive straight, and I know that AMG has better top speed than the Porsche.
Well, we'll see if he can use it to his advantage here. As he's pulling side by side, he's weaving in and out of that slipstream. He doesn't want to get too close. But man, look at that gap closed down. He's got to make a move right here, right now, and make it stick and walk away. As he passes Demon, going to turn one, takes the inside line, goes around. Oh, Demon though had a great turn in there. Demon's now on the inside, does a little switcheroo of himself, and he's there.
Racing. Giller's gonna have to slow down here to make this turn. Okay, good. He get leaving that space. What respectful driving.
Oh, fantastic. We're side by side going into the uphill section. Looks like Demon may just have Gilly here on these tight turns, but Gilly with the power. It's only a matter of time, I think, that he passes him up. Specs and Solis back in pits. Interesting move. They got their medium stint over with. Specs gonna have to refuel. Going on the softs. 69 fuel. Nice. Solus at 70.
Solus following the same thing. It's interesting to see him pit right with Specs because Specs, you know, his tires were far more dead than it's Solus's. But hey, maybe he was fighting and said, "I'm gonna follow Specs and do exactly what they do," and gets out as soon as they can.
Yeah, they had considerable more fuel, I believe, than Specs. But you know what? That also means a faster pit stop for them. So can you see how close they are behind each other?
Currently, there's about a 1 3/4 to 2 second gap between them, and that's just the difference of getting out the pits. You know,
right, so
maybe it's Solus literally reacted to Specs leaving.
You may have to keep an eye on that while we keep our eye on Gilly and Demon on stream over here. Once again, we're on the main straight. Gilly a little bit further behind.
Mr. Labu having a moment there at the exit of the final turn, but it straightens it out. Is on the straight. Real upset. They did hit the guardrail.
Oh no.
Twice. Yeah, not great for them. But you know what? Here we're gonna have a race. Specs is not far behind Crispy Nubbins either, and Solus is not far behind Specs, obviously, since they just pitted at the same time.
Well, we may have to swap that. This is entertaining here. Gilly getting a good run on Demon here, going into turn 4, I believe it is, if I can count correctly. And Gilly takes third place from Demon, going off the inside. Let's see if he can hold it while we go into the uphill section of this track here, which once again I feel the Porsche might have the upper hand. Demon looking for any sort of room, any sort of space to make a move here. He pulls around the outside, and as we start this slow descent up.
That's not a typical place where you're going to overtake people. Really, if you go under that banner, you could really break short and cover the apex. But you're not getting overtake anyone really typically until you get to that main street again. I feel like it's a tough section track.
It's a tough section, and I mean Gilly now pulling 700, 800s. Okay, well it's gonna change a little bit since we're right close to each other. But this is where it's gonna count. I feel like Gilly made up enough space here. He's over half a second ahead, though. Actually, I take that back. It looks like Demon got a really good exit, and he's slowly closing that gap down. He's getting in slipstream, but I don't think it's gonna be enough to be able to take place going into T1 from Gilly again. And while they've been fighting, Mooseman has just increased his lead up from 22 seconds. He's up to 25 just about now.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Mooseman really just reaping the benefits of these two fighting for the last few laps. It's been great to see, but if I were them, I maybe would have tried to just go as fast as you can and use the tow that you're getting from one another to catch up a little bit. But 20 seconds at the start was a big gap to make up, and 24 now, it's just, it's not likely, but you never know. We still have a little less than 8 minutes, a little less than 9 minutes, I should say, left in this race. We're going to see how they go. We do have a good race coming up here between Crispy in 5th, Specs in 6th, and it's Solus in 7th. All of them closing the gap to each other, especially it's Solus coming up on Specs, but really the three of them are, it's going to be fun. It's going to be good to see here in the last 8 minutes of this race.
Well, I can't believe this race is almost over already. It's unbelievable how fast it seems to go. When we were at the 10-minute mark, I thought, oh, for sure this is going to be long, but it's felt like no time. And I'm sure for someone like Moose, who's just in their own world right now, they want it to be done now. As Specs goes a little silent, Specs bringing out the drift art of his Subaru's motherland.
That's right. Yeah, just trying to get a little of that DNA going in again there, I guess. Sometimes it's faster. I don't know. I'll tell you what. Sometimes I see people drifting and they're going around corners faster, and I don't get it. I've never been able to do it successfully.
The gas is on the right, so I think that's an important part of that for you.
That might be it, but here we go. Specs up on Crispy despite that slidey, drifting bit there.
Oh, as they both go wide, it's Solus gets the run on both Specs and Crispy into 5th place. Demon is pit again. He needs more fuel. This is a chance for all three of them. We're gonna have a fight for 5th. It looks like because Demon's about to leave the pits, I'm sure, and meet up with these guys just at the tail end of this main straight.
That's right, Demon coming out on the softs. We've got less than 7 minutes left in this race. What are those softs going to be able to do for Demon? Demon's behind Mr. Labu now. Giller's in his own race.
Wow. I mean, listen, the 2-stop, man, it may work to get him 3rd if he can catch Mr. Labu, but that basically just gave Gilly free 2nd place. He's in open air, which is what he's wanted for a few laps now, and he can go and try and chase Moose down, but Moose has been putting in lap after lap. Nobody's been able to beat that fastest lap of his at 1:38.8.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And even the gap to Mr. Labu is over 20 seconds. It's not going to be easy for Demon there.
Mr. Labu has had a fairly quiet race, I feel. We haven't had them on screen for super long, but it seems like, they're just doing their thing, and he's just kind of payphoning right now. He's got payphone stuck in his head as he drives, and if he can hold the spot for the podium, and another good race for Mr. Labu. We haven't seen much of them in this preseason yet, but I think maybe the first or second race, and they did well. Again, it's kind of seen that I think they may have had a few track limit penalties in that race, if I'm remembering correctly, but they did well, and they kept it. I think they had enough fighting for podium or 4th place. So good to see Mr. Labu still in form as we continue with this fight for 5th.
Mr. Labu's lap times have been ridiculously consistent. I mean, I'm looking at a number of them right now, and most of them are just 141 with some variation there at the end. So very consistent driving. I think the 144 that I see up there was from a few laps ago when they did hit the barrier coming out of last turn. But that's very, very good to see. I like that. So
the rest of the grid is pretty spread out then, as we're gonna run through real quick. We have Crispy in 7th, just about 2.5 seconds down from Specs. Specs in 6th, about a second and change from Solus, though they are fighting. Solus looks like they may be pulling away a little bit here, so kudos to them. Next up, we have Demon on 4th. He is 8 seconds up on its Solus. So again, unless Demon makes a mistake, I don't see that gap, closing too much. But we have 5 minutes, almost 4 minutes left. We'll see what happens.
Well, I'll tell you, I was watching, the race between Specs, Solus, and Crispy when Specs and Solus came out of the pit, and Solus closed the gap to Specs faster than Specs closed it to Crispy Nubbins. So they definitely have some pace in the 4GT there, and Demon is taking a second out already in the gap between themselves and Mr. Labu. I don't know, less than 4 minutes to go. It's too much time. Demon's got to be hoping Mr. Labu makes a mistake, which we saw previously. We don't want to happen, but we're sure that Demon, or I'm certain that Demon's kind of hoping for it.
I'm sure Demon is hoping for any. I don't think Demons usually pray to a higher power. Maybe they do. I don't know. I'm no expert, but he's praying and hoping that something happens to Mr. Labu. Maybe he DCs. I don't know.
What do you mean? You weren't trained and well versed in Demon gods?
Believe it or not, I that's not part of the.
You must have skipped that day of school.
Yeah, must have. I don't think that's part of the education system we have here, but maybe I did just miss that day. As we're closing in, 4 minutes left here. Actually 3 minutes left, just coming up on it, and I still gotta say those softs on Specs, man, that Subaru just loves eating tires. I think
that it does. It's eating tires and fuel. It's kind of ridiculous, honestly.
He's been pushing hard though, and so I think even if he's pushing a bit of a big and that Solus makes a mistake. That's what Specs was hoping for.
Well, I'll tell you, I was going to bring it up before that just happened. It looks like Solus did make something where it caused Specs to be able to catch up to him. Specs being sloppy right there, though, but still taking the place. What a bummer for Solus.
Oh, man.
Oh.
Well, you know what, though? Overall, it seems like they've had a decent race. It does look like they have some damage on the front end. I don't know how much that's affecting them, but it couldn't have been affecting them too much if they were able to maintain that lead and you know, I mean, create a gap for themselves. But that's gotta sting. And you know the only thing that they'll be looking at is Specs rear end and hoping that he spins out again, which may happen. Crispy Nubbins as well, just hoping that one of these guys makes a mistake so you can try and crawl up a few places here.
That's right, and I'll tell you, the tire wear though between the three of them in 5th through 7th is pretty similar overall, with I think Crispy having the best right now. And I do think that they pitted, no, actually I can't remember who pitted latest, but if I were Mooseman and Giller, I would just take it home. You're not closing the gap. You want to make sure that you have enough fuel to get through. You don't want to push it and ruin your race. Just take it home.
Absolutely. And you know what? We are going to sit along with the Mooseman for the last minute and change of this race. Someone who, again, we haven't seen everything, but just looking at those lap times, consistent. And that is all you really want. He's going to bring home fastest lap. It looks like he made the right call as far as strategy goes. And we just saw how quick Moose was to create that gap within the first couple of laps. I mean, you know, he started P2, and just the moment they got ahead, said, "All right, boys, I'll see you at the finish line."
Yeah, that's exactly right. Mooseman, you know, it was a really fun fight to see for 4th in the beginning. We had Specs in 4th, followed by Giller, Moose, and Demon. But once Mooseman pulled ahead, that was it. That was all they needed. They needed some fresh air, and they just pulled away. That GTR working really well under Mooseman's hands, I gotta say.
Yeah, I don't know. Is this what he's been driving since for the past couple of weekends, or is he swapping cars?
I'm not too sure.
I can't remember what he was driving previously.
For the exhibition, we're not really keeping too much track. For the Manu series, though, people do have to commit. And we're seeing a little battle here between Specs and its Solus, getting very close, but it looks like it's been respectful so far. Specs up the behind of its Solus, coming down the main street. It's Solus cross. Okay. It's Solus maybe thought about pitting. I'm not quite sure what they were doing there.
That was a drag race for the finish line, as Specs just got ahead of at 5. Wow. That was very close at the end of that.
That was very close. 5/100ths of a second separated them. That was incredible to see.
Fantastic. Crispy probably benefited from that as well, as we go on board with Moose, taking first place, 20 seconds ahead of Mr. Gilly over here, who we will follow along for his final lap as well. I mean, fantastic race run by Gilly. I think he made, you know, he spun out going on the uphill section, and I think that's where really his race kind of fell, you know, not fell apart, but you have to concede that second place was what he was gonna get or fight for. And there he goes, a little celebratory weaving as he uses the rest of those tires. Mr. Labu predicted the fuel use very well, and again, they had a great race. As we see him,
fantastic. Look at the consistency.
Yeah,
Look at those consistent laps. Again, a second slower about here and there of Giller and Mooseman, and that's really what made up the difference over the course of this race. 24 laps of race, 25 with the final one. You know, that's a lot of time. That's the 25-second gap that you could see there, and especially, you know, they had a couple of 1 or 2 mishaps that we saw.
Yeah, and even Demon, who needed to pit, I think the only person to pit a second time, coming in 4th. I mean, they end up having a clean race while they were on the track. They just maybe misjudged the fuel on the tire wear. But congratulations to Moose pulling ahead. And
fantastic race.
Well, as we cut to the results real quick, Moose with the fastest lap as well, followed by Gilly in 2nd, Mr. Labu in 3rd, Demon taking home 4th, Specs having a great run with its Solace at the end for 5th, and Solace taking 6th, Crispy right behind him 7th, and DNF for Mr. Bilo, who left earlier in the race. So
that's right.
Next up, we will be at Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit. We'll be taking a quick break, and we will catch up with